Hello and welcome to Medical Dialogues, your daily dose of health and medical news. I'm Mr. Zaman and here is what I bring to you all from the world of medicine. How fractures in the elderly are preventable with simple X-rays. Findings in a new thesis from the University of Gothenburg indicate that a simple X-ray method should be introduced as a routine procedure in Swedish healthcare. More elderly patients can then be diagnosed and given the most efficacious drugs. The thesis confirms previous research showing that 25% of older women between 75 and 80 have vertebral compression fractures. However, the majority are unaware that these are causing their back pain. Only 1 in 3 is diagnosed. Based on population statistics from Statistics Sweden, that is SCB, there are at least 40,000 older women in Sweden who do not know that they have vertebral compression fractures. Few elderly patients who have suffered fractures, their hip and lumbar spine bone density is examined with the dual energy X-ray absorptiometry, that is DXA method, to find out if they need treatment for osteoporosis. Dual energy X-ray absorptiometry can then also be used to get a side view of the chest and lumbar spine with a method called vertebral fracture assessment or VFA, in which the height of the vertebrae is analyzed. The thesis is based on the superb population study which included 3,028 women in Gothenburg between 75 and 80 years old. The study shows that the women with vertebral compression fractures had lower hip bone density to a greater extent and their physical functional capacity and health was poorer. The women who had an identifiable vertebral compression, even if it was classed as mild, had a markedly increased fracture risk entirely independent from other risk factors and bone density. The authors said that vertebral fracture assessment is of great clinical benefit and the results suggest that the method should be introduced as a routine procedure in healthcare nationwide. It provides a very low radiation dose and it's fast, cheap, simple and effective in finding vertebral compressions. It's a valuable method for diagnosing relevant compressions and significantly improves fracture risk assessment in older women. Controlling the bacteria that's a cause of severe food infection and gastrointestinal complications. Scientists are working to clip the long, flexible appendages that enable the common bacterium Campylobacter jejuni to make its way from undercooked poultry and natural waterways into our intestinal tract, where it makes millions of us sick each year. Motility is the magic bullet for this bacterium, which uses its long, thin, flexible arm-like flagella to maneuver the thick mucus in our gastrointestinal tract, power its way inside our intestinal cells, then wrap itself in a protective biofilm when threatened, said the researchers. Researchers found that the nimble flagella, each longer than the bacterium's corkscrew-shaped central body, don't just propel, they help grab and hold on to the cell the bacterium is working to infect and push inside. These essential arms, sticking because of their natural sugar coating, also play a role in building biofilm that will protect it from harsh times like too little food or too much oxygen. The researchers wanted to stop the pervasive bacterium, potentially with a safe molecule that could be given as soon as signs of infection appear, like diarrhea and fever, by targeting elements key to its amazing mobility. The enzyme CBRR, a so-called response regulator of the bacterium that enables it to assess its dynamic environment and make the adjustments it needs to survive. They also took the first looks in the bacterium at the second messenger cyclic di-GMP, which the enzyme produces and uses to make these adjustments, and most recently the amino acids that function as building blocks for the bacterium's long arms. The researchers studied both the primary sugar Campylobacter uses to make slimy protective biofilm and how the regulatory protein CSRA helps. They showed long ago that when CSRA is missing, Campylobacter can't move well, stick to each other or the gastrointestinal tract or make biofilm, preventing sort of infection. How how skin as a sensory receptor can be used to recognize things. The newly developed microphone demonstrates a wider auditory field than human ears, while it can be easily attached to the skin with surprisingly small and thin size. This academic achievement was recently presented as the inside back cover paper in Advanced Materials, an international journal on materials. Researchers developed a microphone that detects sound by applying polymer materials to the micro-electromechanical systems or MEMS. The conventional micro-electromechanical systems based microphones used in cellular phones, Bluetooth devices, and others consist of thin, small, and sophisticated diaphragm structures. Being made of rigid and brittle silicon, however, it is difficult to bend the diaphragm or microphone as desired, and it interferes with the sound detection ability of the device. According to the study, the auditory sensitivity of the microphone is higher than human ears while recognizing the surrounding sounds and voice of the user without distortion. Furthermore, it can detect both loud sounds over 85 decibels, a range that causes auditory damage, and low-frequency sounds that humans can't even hear. The quality of voice detection is comparable to cellular phone or studio microphones. When the acoustic sensor on the skin was connected to a commercial voice assistant program like Google Assistant, the user could search, translate, and control devices effortlessly. The new acoustic sensor has potential applications in wearable voice recognition devices for the Internet of Things and human-machine interfaces. The research team plans to create auditory electronic skin by integrating it with skin-attachable pressure and temperature sensors, flexible displays, and others, the authors concluded. Curious link between soil pollution and cardiovascular diseases. Pesticides and heavy metals in soil may have detrimental effects on the cardiovascular system, according to a review paper published in Cardiovascular Research, a journal of the European Society of Cardiology. The study highlights the relationships between soil pollution and human health, with a particular focus on cardiovascular disease. Soil pollutants include heavy metals, pesticides, and plastics. The authors state that contaminated soil may lead to cardiovascular disease by increasing oxidative stress in the blood vessels, with more bad free radicals and fewer good antioxidants, by causing inflammation, and by disturbing the body clock, that is circadian rhythm. Dirty soil may enter the body by inhaling desert dust, fertilizer crystals, or plastic particles. Heavy metals such as cadmium and lead, plastics, and organic toxicants, for example in pesticides, can also be consumed orally. Soil pollutants wash into rivers and create dirty water which may be consumed. Lead and cadmium is a naturally occurring toxic metal with environmental contamination through mining, smelting, manufacturing, and recycling. Studies have found associations between high blood lead levels and cardiovascular disease, including coronary heart disease, heart attack, and stroke in women and in people with diabetes. Few studies have indicated a higher risk of death from cardiovascular disease associated with exposure to arsenic, a naturally occurring metalloid whose levels can increase due to industrial processes and using contaminated water to irrigate crops. Pesticides have been linked with an elevated risk of cardiovascular disease. While employees in the agricultural and chemical industries face the greatest exposure, the general public may ingest particles from contaminated food, soil, and water. The potential hazards of contaminated airborne dust are noted. Desert dust can travel long distances, and research has shown that particles from soil in China and Mongolia were related to an increased odds of heart attacks in Japan. The number of cardiovascular emergency department visits in Japan was 21% higher on days with heavy exposure to Asian dust. While there are no population studies on the cardiovascular health effects of nano and microplastics in humans, research has shown that these particles can reach the bloodstream, making it plausible that they could travel to the organs and cause systemic inflammation and cardiometabolic disease, ended the authors. That's all for today. Stay tuned to Medical Dialogues for latest updates.
Never miss a medical update from Medical Dialogues. Like, subscribe, and press the bell icon.